Hello, my name is Pete Miller. I'm from Millbrook Benefits, and I'm really glad you're joining me today to talk about the Massachusetts Paid Family and Medical Leave and Disability Insurance plans and how to restructure your plans so the two of them fit together better. So we'll start off with a little bit of background. So a couple of important dates. So probably as you know, January 1st is when PFML goes live. So people are going to be able to take leaves for their own medical conditions, and they'll also be able to take paid leave to bond with a new child or to care for a person who was an active service member in the armed forces. Now, on July 1st, 2021, those same employees can take paid leave to care for a covered family member with a serious illness. And so I think it's important to look at the definitions of family member and serious health condition because they're pretty broad. So family members are spouses, domestic partners, parents, grandparents, in-laws, children, grandchildren, and siblings. So pretty broad scope of family members. And a serious health condition, I'll just read it, is an illness, impairment, injury, or physical or mental condition that involves inpatient care in a hospital, hospice, or residential care facility, or, this is the important part, continuing treatment by a healthcare provider, or continuing treatment for a healthcare provider. So you get a sense that not only is the definition of family member broad, but the definition of serious health condition is pretty broad too. And if you think about the, any given group of employees, any employee population, certainly mine, but the majority of people out there, the majority of employees out there probably have a family member that has a serious health condition as defined as broadly. And so a lot of your employees are going to potentially be eligible for paid family leave come July 1st of next year. That's a big deal. So how long can somebody be out on claim? Again, if they're taking their own medical leave, an employee can be out for 20 weeks. A lot of disability insurance programs last for 13 weeks or 26 weeks. This one happens to be in the middle at 20 weeks. Leave for a family member is 12 weeks unless the person's caring for a service member, and then you can get up to 26 weeks. And the overall maximum is a maximum of 26 weeks in a rolling 52-week period. That's the longest somebody can be out in a given 52-week period. The benefits are kind of complicated. It would be a lot easier if this was just a simple, like your disability plans are, a 60% plan up to $1,000 a week, but it's not. The elimination period is 7 days, so that's pretty easy. The maximum duration we just saw is up to 20 weeks for your own personal illness. But the benefit payable is 80% of the first 50% of the average weekly wage base plus 50% of the excess up to an overall maximum of $850 a week. And so the average weekly wage base in Massachusetts right now is $1,431.66. I'm recording this in May of 2020. So, if you put pen to paper and grab your calculator and start, walking through using your 7th or 8th grade algebra, you can back into the number. The highest salary that's covered by this plan is around $66,000 per year. So what that means is that anybody that earns more than $66,000 per year is not going to be fully covered by the PFML plan. And that's important, and I'll tell you why in a sec. So the formula is pretty complicated. Remember that the PFML pays for a lot more stuff than a disability plan pays for, right? So your disability plan just pays when your employee is out sick. PFML pays if they are out sick, but also if they're caring for a family member at various potential durations. One thing to keep in mind, I think this is a key point, observation number 5, is that it's possible that an employee could potentially exhaust their entire PFML on a family member, particularly if they're caring for a service member, and then subsequently get sick themselves during that same 52-week period and not be able to collect any PFML for their own illness. And that's important. And I think as we look at the reasons and how to set up the plans, the disability plans with the PFML, I think that's going to be an important point to remember. Everything we do here at Millbrook starts with our clients, and we always ask our clients, what do you want to accomplish? What are your goals? What do we want to do with this thing? What are you trying to create? And so there's probably a whole ton of different answers to this question that you could potentially think about, but I'll give you 3 potential ideas. Here's one. I want the best damn benefits package in the Valley. And we actually had a client that used to say that, and it's actually a pretty descriptive sentence. We pretty much knew what we had to build when we're told that we want the best benefits package in the Valley. The other end of the spectrum is those people that are just looking for ways to reduce expenses, maybe for a variety of reasons. Could be we're just hopefully coming out of this COVID-19 pandemic, and there's a lot of companies who are having some dips in revenue, and so finding ways to save money might be really important. In the middle is probably where a lot of employers are going to land. They want to make sure employees are covered without gaps, but they want to do it in the most cost-effective way possible. And so you have to answer that question for yourself. What do you want to accomplish? And I think once you know what you want to accomplish, it'll kind of point you in the right direction as we go through this thought process. So what does the decision process look like? So the first question is, do we want to cancel the short-term disability plan? And there may be some really good reasons to do that. I've talked to several employers recently who said, you know something, the PFML is fine. I've had some employers say to me the PFML is better than the disability plan, and for your lower paid people, that's probably the case. Remembering, however, that you can use the PFML for other stuff. So if we're not going to cancel the short-term disability plan, should we modify it or leave it the same? Once we know what we're doing with the short-term disability plan, the LTD should fall right into place. So short-term disability, 3 potential options: cancel it, keep it, or modify it. And we'll just kind of walk through those each and just kind of give you some concepts to think about. So remember, if you decide that you want to cancel the short-term disability plan, that the paid family leave will probably not cover all of your employees completely. In other words, you probably have employees that earn more than $66,000 per year. They're going to be capped out by that $850 maximum on the short-term on the PFML plan, and so they won't have enough coverage to keep up with their full salary. Now, that may be perfectly fine with you as an employer, but that's just something to keep in the back of your head. Again, remember that if you're going to cancel your short-term disability plan, people can potentially exhaust their PFML on a family member. So that would leave an employee completely on their own if they got sick themselves in that same 52-week period. The other thing to think about when you're thinking about canceling the plan is the rates for short-term disability insurance are going to drop dramatically, and the liability for an employer-sponsored self-funded plan is going to drop dramatically as well. Because what happens is the Massachusetts PFML will be an offset against your short-term disability plan. And anytime the insurance company or your self-funded plan has less liability, the costs of the rates have to come way down. And I think the rates are going to come way down on this. I talked to a carrier a couple weeks ago. They said they were running some integrated short-term disability plan rates, and they were coming in the low to mid-teens. So that's pretty low for short-term disability rates. Another option is you could keep your short-term disability plan and not change a thing. And so there's nothing that says you have to make changes to your short-term disability plan. You can keep it exactly as is. Let the PFML, let your group short-term disability plan integrate with the PFML. That'll give you a pretty good rate reduction for your STD. It also may work if you've got a higher maximum benefit and you have lots of people earning more than $66,000 per year. Something else to think about is there are employers out there who have employees in multiple states, and the employees in the other states are not covered by PFML. And a lot of them are, but there are different companies where their employees will not be covered by Massachusetts PFML. And keeping the existing short-term disability plan will allow those employers to keep their plans consistent for all of their employees. So the last option is, okay, what if I wanted to modify the plan? What would I do? So 3 potential options you could do here. You could just set up a plan that covers just those people earning more than $66,000. Again, leaving the PFML to the lower paid folks, and set up a supplemental plan for those people earning more than $66,000. So that's an option. Another thing you could do is you could set the plan up to dovetail with the PFML. So set it up with a 7-day wait and a 20-week duration, and that would dovetail nicely with the PFML still integrating. You still have a very low rate, but that could work well. And the last option is you could potentially offer voluntary individual short-term disability insurance to give the employees the opportunity to supplement. You could probably even use a group contract here as well. So a few different options for plan modification. Next up is the long-term disability. Again, I think once we make that short-term disability plan decision, the long-term disability plan decision becomes much easier. Same 3 options here: keep it the same, modify it, or cancel it. And we'll walk through those in turn. So first of all, canceling the long-term disability plan completely probably doesn't make a ton of sense, particularly if you still believe in the notion of disability protection for your employees. It might make sense, however, If you decide that that you're just having a really difficult financial time with your business right now and you're trying to find any way you can to save cost, canceling it could make some sense there. But the reality is that paid family leave won't cover all of your employees completely. They can only get up to 20 weeks of coverage, and they can use the PFML on other family members. So you wouldn't cancel the long-term disability plan because of the PFML. The logic that wouldn't be a reason that's logical. So another option that could make some sense is you could keep the existing long-term disability plan. That would make complete sense, could be very reasonable for a variety of reasons. Maybe you've got people working in other states, and maybe it just makes sense from the way that your plans are structured just to keep it the same, and that would be perfectly fine. If you have a 90-day elimination period or a shorter elimination period, you might get a little bit of a discount on your long-term disability rate because, again, the PFML is going to overlap those plans. So again, anytime the insurance company has less liability, the rates should go down a bit. And the last option would be to potentially modify the plan. So if you switch to the short-term disability plan, obviously to dovetail with PFML, you might move your long-term disability elimination period out to 147 days. So the way we come up with that number is the 7-day wait for the PFML plus the 20 weeks of potential maximum duration on the PFML. That gets you to 147 days. Another option would be to leave your elimination period the same, let's say 90 days, but then set it up so it pays at the end of 90 days or the end of paid family leave, whichever is greater. Not all the insurance companies are probably going to want to do that, but some are saying they are. There was one insurance company that told me they're not going to offer a 147-day waiting period or elimination period. They're going to do 150 days, which is probably fine. So we're still remains, as of this date, late May in 2020. We aren't sure exactly about all the plans that the disability insurance companies are coming out with, but I think there's going to be plenty of options for us to consider. So I thought it would make some sense just to walk through a couple of examples, and these are I actually pulled these plans from clients, but they're all pretty typical plans, and then just kind of think through, okay, what are some of the options that I might consider if this was my plan? So example number one has employer-paid short and long-term disability insurance. They both cover 60% of pay. The short-term disability lasts for up to 13 weeks, starts immediately for an accident, and after 7 days for a sickness. That's the elimination period. And long-term disability picks up after that at 90 days and would probably pay till normal retirement age. So what would I think about if this was my plan? Well, first of all, we'll make the assumption that all the employees work in Massachusetts, so they're all covered by PFML. And let's pretend in this scenario that the employer wants to save money if possible, but wants to make sure that there's no gaps in coverage. So they're kind of in that in-between stage. They're not necessarily looking for the best plan in the valley. They're not necessarily looking at the lowest cost possible. They want something in the middle. So option one is you don't have to make any changes at all. The reality is your plan would work just fine with the PFML. The short-term disability would offset with PFML. The long-term disability, if there was a little bit of an overlap, if somebody stayed out for up to 20 weeks on PFML, there'd be a little bit of a discount on long-term disability as well, because long-term kicks in at 90 days. So you don't have to make any changes if you don't want to. And again, you're going to get some discounts, particularly on the short-term disability. Option two is you could dovetail the short-term disability plan and the long-term disability plan so that it fits with PFML very nicely. So you could set it up so the short-term goes from a 0-day wait and for accident, 7 for sickness. We probably, in this case, switch it to a 7-7, so both types of disabilities pay after 7 days. Maximum duration is 20 weeks to dovetail with the PFML, and the long-term disability insurance plan would kick in here after 147 days. And that would fit together pretty nicely, and there might be some reasons to do that, and the math might make some sense. Another option, if you like the notion of having immediate coverage for accidents for your employees, you could make it, instead of a 7-7-20, you can make it a 0-7-20, where accidental disabilities, off-the-job injuries can still be covered immediately on day one. The other thing you could do, if you remember on this plan, we've got that $800 weekly maximum for this plan. Because the PFML plan has an $850 maximum, this might be a good time to think about changing your short-term disability maximum benefit to something higher. Maybe $1,500 or $2,000 or something like that per week. The reality is the rates are going to be really low, and that might be an easy change to make for January 1st. Okay, example 2, similar type of plan, 0713 on the short-term disability, but in these plans are employee paid instead of employer paid. All right, so how might we think about these assumptions? We'll assume everybody's covered by PFML, and again, that employer wants to keep costs down but doesn't want to allow a whole lot of gaps. So option 1 is, again, you don't have to make any changes at all. In this case, you'd probably want to re-enroll the short-term disability for sure to give people a chance to probably opt out, because some of them might decide to opt out given the PFML. But again, those rates are going to be pretty low, so you may have some people that want to stay in there as well. Option 2 is, again, you could dovetail, keep the short-term disability, use it as a supplement to the PFML plan with a 7720 or a 0720, depending on how you want to set it up. Again, I'd look at the higher maximum, and in this case, we'd want to dovetail the long-term disability into the 147-day plan, or 150 days, depending on what the insurance company could offer. And the last idea is, instead of using a group short-term disability contract, you might use individual short-term disability contracts and re-enroll to give people a chance to supplement even more. And that's just a thought. And again, if you did that, you could either leave the long-term disability plan at 90 days or push it out to 147. Example 3, we've got a self-funded short-term disability plan that has a 26-week duration, good healthy maximum here at $2,000 a week, and the long-term disability kicks in after 180 days. Both cover 60%. Let's assume that everybody's covered by the PFML. The employer's cost conscious, but again, it wants to make sure there's no gaps. In this case, just for argument's sake, we'll assume that the self-funding of the short-term disability plan is working well for the employer. It's actually been less expensive to self-insure than to buy an insured contract for them. So let's assume that's been working well. Option 1, you don't have to make changes at all. Your liability on the short-term disability will drop dramatically. So that's one reasonable solution. Option 2, again, you could do the same thing when you could dovetail the short-term and the long-term together, and with the PFML, 20 weeks and the 147-day wait. Last example, we have an employer-paid short and long-term disability plan. Starts after 14 days instead of 07. But in this example, let's assume that the employer really wants to reduce costs. They've had a big problem revenue-wise with the COVID-19 pandemic, and they're saying, hey, Pete, just find me any way you can to reduce cost. So option 1 is cancel the short-term disability plan. You can't cancel the PFML. Unfortunately, we have to have it. So you can't cancel the PFML. So go ahead and cancel the short-term disability plan. Let the PFML plan be the sole source of coverage. I mean, that's certainly a reasonable decision. If you did that, you could even get a little bit of a discount if you push the long-term disability plan elimination period out from 90 days to 147 days. So that could work. Or option 2 is you could cancel them both the short and long-term disability plans from an employer-paid perspective, but then go back and offer the employees the chance to buy individual policies or to buy group policies to supplement the PFML. So couple of pretty simple options there. So since I'm recording this on a webinar and just for the use to distribute, obviously there aren't any listeners, so there aren't any questions. But if you have questions for me, here's how you can reach me. Our website is millbrookbenefits.com. You can reach me toll free at 866-724-0008, and my email is pete@millbrookbenefits.com. Thanks for listening. I hope this information was useful, and good luck as you start to go down the path of figuring out how to restructure your disability plans to integrate with the PFML plans starting January 1st. Have a good day and take care.